Yeah, hey, good morning. This is 11:05 as per my watch. And thanks for taking out time and joining this webinar uh, for Introduction to Mental Health. So before even jumping into the webinar, I first want you to thank you for joining in and congratulate you to joining in. We were planning as an organization to do something about, on a societal benefit. So here we are after a discussion, a feedback from one of our previous students, so how we can actually help the community by leveraging across the critical aspects, which I feel is kind of a surrounded by a stigma or people don't want to kind of talk about it. But that is a very real thing. And I kind of welcome you across for this particular mental health webinar, where we are not only being joined by the Academy of Learning, we are also joined by experts who are into the field, who kind of see across what is happening around and what are the mechanisms, how to cope up with all those things. So thank you again. Once again, let me kind of first start. Let me first introduce myself. My name is Dev. I am the campus director for Academy of Learning Mississauga. Uh, and I have been, this Academy of the Learning is here from past about 3 decades. On the webinar agenda, so we primarily would be focusing on prime three aspects of a webinar. First one is like, what is the importance of mental health awareness? So awareness is a very critical thing. It is not only that you being suffering from that, but this awareness will make you sensitive towards another human beings or another persons whom you are interacting with, why this is so important. Then our experts will deep dive into certain mental health disorders to make the audience pretty aware that these are real-time kind of disorders. And third one would be, what are the common challenges faced by the individuals who is, so being into that particular mental uh, health. So please make sure that you make down the points, and we are joined with the experts. You can kind of given an opportunity to ask all those questions to these experts in the end of the webinar. And again, I'm just stating this webinar is being recorded in case if you have missed either due to a interruption in your network or some or other things. So will be sending you a recording copy for that. Uh, so who we are, so why we are doing that. So we are into the education space from past 3 decades. So we are located at 1310 Dundas Street East, and to the testimony, so we are being rated at around 4.8 across, so that as an institution. And there are a couple of testimonials which are being presented across, so from different fraternity, or different programs, so just as a standing as a testimony that how we are there to help our students out to get the meaningful jobs and help our students out in terms of finding a commendable, so employment. Not taking much, quick overview on Academy of Learning Mississauga. So we are been in existence from past 3 decades, and we have a record of excellence across, and simultaneously we also believe in personalized success, which means that there is a one-to-one person being allotted across, and we want to ensure, or we want to be into that space, we will become the most cherished organization to actually impacting the things in the society and simultaneously to impacting the lives. So we have seen the things has gone a bit hard, so COVID has impacted us because nobody was aware about all those particular things. It is always a good time to kind of learn, relearn, and kind of adapt the careers too. So adding to that particular thing, we wanted to give it back to the society. Then we found a wonderful organization which are already making an impact. And when I say an impact, they are making a huge impact in the society on the areas where people are not comfortable talking about, on the areas where, so there are stigmas attached, on the areas which were not live, let's say down here 10 the line, nobody was talking about them. Let me kind of, introduce ARCS as an organization to you. So these people are the experts into comprehensive mental health support. So for these webinar series, we want to bring across an expert who had a real life, who have seen the people, who have talked to the people, who have actually made an impact on the lives of these particular people or so community as a general. And I'm proud to say, because I work closely with them. So I have seen that how they have made an impact, how they have made a impact not only in the personal life, but because a person is being impacted, their family, their society, and the well-being of all other people are being taken care of. So having said that, they have a lot of, so physiotherapy, psychologists and psychotherapists and their teams. So I would not be enough, if I kind of start speaking about them, it will take me about the full webinar time, but I will kind of restrict myself and let me unveil. So I am presenting to you, so Gloria Segovia. So Gloria is the one, so which has kind of made me proud, which has I've seen, so she was an instructor with us, so about 10, 12 years down the line. And she was rated as one of the best instructors in community service worker. Her passion and her education was into that field, and she wanted to make impact, not only restricted to the schools. Then she opened up an organization, and right now, she is a proud owner and leading ARCS, which is an organization into the mental health, into all those particular things for our society. And today, I am very proud to welcome Gloria on board to kick off this webinar series. And I would be inviting Gloria. Gloria, if you are there, please kind of come on the screen, please, and uh, and take the things over. She would be your host for next 20 minutes. Welcome, Gloria.
Hi, thank you so much for that introduction, Deb. Hi to everybody out there. What a pleasure it is and what a privilege it is to sit here with everyone. I am so proud of everyone for coming to this webinar and being interested in mental health, because like Deb says, it affects everyone. So welcome. All right, so why don't we address, the question in the room? And, it seems like a simple question, but it's a very, very difficult question, a complex question at times, because we don't always want to share this. So what is mental health? So if we were to define mental health, there's a lot of definitions to mental health. I would like to say, first of all, let me ask you some questions. Do we all have mental health? Or do some of us do while others don't? Can we tell how someone's feeling by looking at them from the outside? Or what if you see postings on Facebook? I mean, I just love Facebook. I love posting things on Facebook. But when I look at Facebook, sometimes I see pictures of families, I see smiles, I see vacation, and a lot of, people having a great time. And some of you may be using Instagram or maybe TikTok. Maybe you're creating a dance. So to the outside world, people's life might look perfect. When you're looking at that Facebook picture, it might look like a flawless family. It might look like, these people, they have no chaos, no conflict. I wonder how true this is. I wonder what the reality is. Okay. Wonderful. So what are we looking at right here? Now, first question here. Does this look like someone with mental illness? She's smiling. She is absolutely gorgeous from society standards. She's carrying a bouquet of roses. She's got a crown on her beautiful hair. So this is beauty pageant Chesley Chris. She was crowned Miss USA in 2019. She embodied love and service to others. She worked as an attorney, fighting social justice. She died by suicide at the age of 30. From a psychological perspective, she had what we call high functioning depression, which she hid from everyone. Okay. Who is this funny guy? I think a lot of us would know this is Robin Williams. He contributed to the field of theater for many decades. He created lots of TV shows. One of the best movies that I really loved from him was Miss Doubtfire. He made all of us laugh. He made life easier for all of us. However, he was diagnosed with Lewy body dementia, which is a subtype of dementia. He also was found dead at his California home, August 2014, at the age of 63. So I know that most of us only like to share the good things that are happening. And I know sometimes it's easier to do that than having a difficult conversation about our challenges, our feelings, maybe how we're behaving. And I get it. We see it in the clinic all the time. So why don't we, and I want you to know that you are all safe in this webinar. If at any point you feel emotionally unsettled with the content that we are going to be discussing, please step away from the webinar and give yourself some self-soothing opportunities to drink some water, collect your thoughts, and come back. Okay. So what does the World Health Organization say about mental health? Well, as you can see on the PowerPoint here, mental health is a state of mental wellness that helps people cope with the stress of life, to realize their abilities, to learn and work well, and also to contribute to their community. It is an essential component of health and well-being that underpins our individual and collective abilities to make decisions, build relationships. It's great to have friends. It's great to have healthy relationships. And we also shape the world that we live in through our mental health. One thing that's really important to mention is that mental health is a basic human right. It's not just for people who are successful or celebrities, it's for everyone. It is crucial to personal community and socioeconomic development. All right, so now we're looking at this picture. Does this look like someone with mental illness? According to Canadian Mental Health Association, which we call CMHA, people with serious mental illness often drift into poverty. So as you can see, the picture of this homeless person. Now, people with serious mental illness, they face a lot of barriers, including, Deb said it very clearly, stigma, discrimination. And unfortunately, these two factors prevent a lot of them from securing adequate education, employment, housing. So experiencing a mental illness can seriously interrupt a person's education, career path, and ultimately jeopardizing employment And we know that a lack of secure employment affects anybody's ability to exist, to live, to think, to have a positive mental health mindset. So, is mental health more than the absence of mental disorders? Yes. It exists on a complex continuum, which is experienced differently from person to person, with different degrees of difficulty, distress, and potentially very different social and clinical outcomes. We see this in our clinics in Mississauga, in Toronto, and in Orangeville. Okay, so now we're going to talk about stats. Now, stats are important because they give us kind of a blueprint of what's really happening out there, not just in the community you live in or in, among your friends or your family member, but what's the global consensus? What's happening in Canada? So, according to the life and economic impact of major mental illnesses in Canada, 2011 to 2041, so they're doing lots of research here, and it was prepared for the Mental Health Commission of Canada, Toronto. The prevalence in any given year is that 1 in 5 Canadians experiences a mental illness. And folks, that's just what's recorded. And we talked about stigma and discrimination. So a lot of people don't want to share this. They don't want, their disclosures to affect a job opportunity. They don't want to be discriminated. And I think that we can understand the reasons why they wouldn't disclose. But I'm hoping, and my hope is that through constant webinars like this and awareness, that we get away from being scared of sharing our challenges, our conflicts, and our mental health. All right, so another stat here is by the time Canadians reach 40 years of age, 1 in 2 have or would have had a mental illness. Incredible stats. Okay. Now, according to WHO, which is World Health Organization, in 2019, now this is a global stat. So 1 in every 8 people, or 970 million people around the world, are living with a mental disorder or illness, such as anxiety, depression, or depressive disorders. In 2020, the number of people living with anxiety and depressive disorders rose significantly. I wonder why. Could COVID have had an impact? Of course. During the pandemic, we saw a lot of isolation. We saw a lot of people struggling alone, not attending groups. So this is not a surprise. So why don't we, sometimes I wonder, and I wonder if people wonder, how do people know anything about mental health or mental illness? I mean, is there like a manual or a book that, professionals use? Well, there's definitely a manual. And psychiatrists use it, doctors, pharmacists, therapists, psychologists, social workers. And it is called the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual on Mental Disorders, 5th edition. This is a manual on mental illness, and it was published and created by the American Psychiatric Association, APA. It has been accepted as the authority on mental health disorders. Now, I don't know if any of you know this or not. This is a fun fact. Did you know that the first publication of the DSM-5 was in 1952? And the last was just recently in 2013, which is the DSM-5. So this encyclopedia of mental illness groups the different mental disorders into 5 distinct categories. I don't know about you, but I love mental mapping. I use this a lot with clients that come see me. A lot of us are visual learners, which is amazing. And so we're gonna move forward and talk about the different categories. All right. So if you can see here, the first category is neurodevelopmental disorders. And this is really about the brain and the nervous system disorders beginning early in development. What does this mean? So neurodevelopmental disorders are disabilities associated primarily with the functioning of the neurological system and the brain. So basically, all of that saying it's everything that happens up here. Now, these disorders likely result from a combination. And this is what we ask in our practice. You know, we look at the genetic factors, we look at the biological factors, we look at the psychosocial factors, and the environmental risk factors. A broad range of environmental risk factors may affect neurodevelopmental disorders, including maternal use of alcohol, tobacco, illicit drugs during pregnancy, lower socioeconomic status, low birth weight, the physical environment. So quite a lot of things. All right. So the second category is called the internalizing disorders. So these are illnesses whose symptoms are turned inward within the person. So you can see some pictures here. You can see the anguish and the agony and the solitude of where the emotions are being held for each person in these pictures. It is a horrible place when you have a child that comes home to you and says that they're getting bullied at home. And if you're a mother like I am, I remember feeling helpless and hopeless. I remember feeling sad for my daughter that she was being hurt this way. It affected everything. It affected how she ate. It affected her sleep. It even affected how much involved she wanted to be with us, her family. So this is what we call internalizing disorders. The third category is externalizing disorders. So externalizing disorders are illnesses whose symptoms are expressed outwardly to the world. The best way to describe this, I think, is anger management. A lot of people, you know, there had to have been a time in your life when you were just fed up and you said things that hurt other people because you were in a state of what we call in the psychological world, floodedness. So externalizing disorders is just that. Now, neurocognitive disorders. I bet some of you, maybe not all of you, understand that one day this could be you. Neurologic? Yes. Why? Because one day, hopefully, you know, it won't happen to everyone, but certainly it has happened to some of us, where we have had major operations needing very strong medication. And as a result, we might have come out of surgery and been in a delirious state. Dementia. You know, dementia is something that research suggests that 80% of us might have. Traumatic brain injury. Everybody drives a car. Some people play football, rugby. Lewy body disease. This is what Robin Williams was diagnosed with. And category 5, other disorders. These are illnesses that do cause disruption and dysfunction, but don't quite meet the full criteria of others in its chapter of the DSM-5. All right. So what causes mental illness? What's going on? Why are some people suffering more than others? All right. So experiences related to other ongoing medical conditions. So sometimes what happens is we might be diagnosed with something like diabetes, like cancer. It will affect our mental wellness, our mental health. Some of us have had ACE, what we call adverse childhood experiences, such as trauma or a history of abuse, child abuse, sexual assault, witnessing violence. In our practice in Mississauga, we see a lot of frontline workers, EMS workers, we see teachers, we see even doctors. And so we know all too well that there's tons of vicarious trauma. Biological factors or chemical imbalances in the brain. You know, this is where we ask, hey, does anybody in your family have depression, ADHD, schizophrenia, bipolar? So this is what we mean when we say biological factors and chemical imbalances in the brain. The brain has a lot to do with this, but I think one day we'll have a webinar on the brain. Also use of alcohol and drugs, having feelings of loneliness and isolation, the pandemic. You know, a lot of people got worse. A lot of people got diagnosed with new mental health disorders. All right, so we're almost finally done here. I hope that everybody's enjoying the webinar at this point. So what do we do with all this information, right? What if you were diagnosed? You know, research suggests that women get diagnosed with ADHD later in life. And so let's say, you know, you're diagnosed with ADD or ADHD. What happens? Where do you go? So as a therapist in the field with my team, we know that medication is a big part of our recovery, but medication does not outright the cure of mental illness. It allows us to manage the symptoms. However, it's not enough. It needs to be paired with something else. So another treatment would be the hospital. Sometimes in our clinic, we have clients that come in and say that they really don't want to be here anymore. And if they have an active plan, we have to be with them until they come to places like the hospital. And another treatment would be, you know, seeking out shared experiences, which we call support groups. Al-Anon has it, AA has it. There's a lot of anonymous groups, Codependency Anonymous. So a support group is a group meeting where members guide each other towards the shared goal of recovery. Support groups are often comprised of non-professionals, but peers. And that has a lot of influence over our recovery. Okay, so psychotherapy, this is us. I am so happy that Dev and AOL and Mississauga have invited us to this webinar. This gives me an opportunity to share with you a vital resource, and that is therapy. We are a team of women who love what we do. We're trained in mental health. We help you explore your thoughts, your feelings, your behaviors, and we help improve your life. We kind of implant a seed and we watch you grow. So psychotherapy paired with medication is the most effective way to help you manage your mental health.
Thank you, Gloria. So this is Dev. So I will just pause for a moment because there's too much of the things to kind of, so get soaked in. So Gloria did talked about, so initially why mental health, mental illness, and what are the symptoms for the mental illness. Then simultaneously, what are the key disorders in mental illness. Then after that, she kind of touched based on the treatments. So this one, I'm just jumping in to have a pause moment across, we will be having a real life example session with Gloria and followed by a Q&A. Now, this is a bit of a time, about 2 minutes, to kind of put across your thoughts. If you have any questions across to Gloria, please feel free to kind of do so. And this is the first time which we are doing this webinar. We will follow this up with a proper feedback mechanism. Please feel free to give the feedback, so probably what are the things you liked, what are the things you don't like, what are the things you want us to include, as said. So this is a small initiative towards the right, so goal which we want to take it across. Have a brief moment. In the meantime, what I will do is I have prepared about 2 slides about AOL Mississauga. I can see a couple of the joinees are AOL Mississauga students, and a few of us are not. So just a bit about AOL Mississauga. Uh, a brief, I did kind of a touch base that we are already very highly rated school across in adult learning space. We do have 35 plus diploma programs in healthcare, business, IT, legal, and vocational courses like home inspection. So please kind of reach out to us if you want to kind of so want your career path to be set in a different direction, and we do kind of a look at that you are being successful in that particular field. I will not take much of your time across, so then simultaneously, so it is not that you need to get it, so pay from your pocket. We do have different options in case if you want to pursue, like Gloria was a phenomenal CSW instructor when we have. Now, her students actually got into the mainstream, made an impact in the life of the people, simultaneously doing it sustainably. When I say sustainably is, you have to earn a livelihood. You have to have a right of a livelihood. If your livelihood is being kind of taken care of, then simultaneously, if you're working into a field where you love, then it becomes a feather in the cap. You enjoy what you do. And having said that particular case, so I just kind of filled up these 2-3 minutes just to pin down your thoughts across for the questions and hearing a couple of things from Gloria on the real life cases. Uh, because she was been speaking from past 25 minutes, that is super great. So I would again kind of invite in Gloria to just share a couple of real life examples, because this is where we can relate to the real life. Over to you, Gloria. So, Ralph, I see that you have raised a hand after this particular real life example uh, session of about 5-7 minutes by Gloria. So, we will be opening the floor where you can unmute your mic and ask those questions. And I encourage, so this is a safe space. And while in that Q&A, I would be pausing that particular recording. So in case if you want to discuss something which you feel is not recorded, should be taken care of. Okay, over to you, Gloria, please.
Thank you again for this opportunity, Deb, and AOL. Exponential knowledge. That is what we call our personal experiences. A lot of us, if not all of us, have experienced mental health or mental illness at some point in our life, whether it's ourselves, whether it's a family member, whether it's a best friend, whether it's someone in your class. When we do experience mental illness or challenge to our health, it causes a lot of anxiety, disbelief, because sometimes you could be doing everything correct. You could be eating everything organic. You could be running, you could be jogging. You could be doing everything that you were told to do to be mentally and physically healthy. And then all of a sudden, you turn 21 and you start hearing voices. Or all of a sudden, you turn 25 and you start getting flashbacks. Trauma is real. It's real to all of us. It's real to the people we see in the Mississauga, in the Toronto, and in Orangeville office. It's even real for us as being clinicians and therapists in the field. If we build a better network of people and communities that understand mental health, we can definitely challenge stigma and discrimination. Because nobody should be judged based on their mental health or their mental illness. Remember those Facebook pictures, Instagram, TikTok, everybody's happy, but everybody's also walking their own journey and having their own conflict and their own struggles. So thank you again for allowing me to speak. With ARCS, we're here and we're happy to be part of this. And we hope, and this is our hope, that you enjoyed this webinar and that you would join us for our second webinar with AOL, September 14th. And the topic that we are going to be serving on our table of mental health will be self-care and burnout prevention. Very, very important topics. And we look forward to you coming and attending those webinars. Thank you again for welcoming us into your space.
Thank you so much,
Thank you so
Gloria.
much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gloria. So what I'm just doing is, so I'm just pausing the recording. Now I'm opening up a safe space. Nothing is being recorded, so I would, so we have about 10 minutes based on how the question and answers are. So I would kind of pause the recording and please feel free to ask the questions. And I would request the participants to be mindful for other persons. So it would be great if you can kind of raise a hand and I can call out a name.